It's just 10 years since LinkedIn was founded, and next year will be the 10th anniversary of its launch. And over that time, it has changed quite dramatically. But what I want to share with you this morning is I want to share the 25 ways that you can actually use LinkedIn to boost your online profile. So let's have a look at some of the key issues. Before you start getting into LinkedIn and before you start making lots of changes, especially if you've got your iPad and you're going to go and do this right now, you should put on something called your invisibility cloak. If you don't, what will then happen is when you change your photo, you update your education, you add new connections, you change your job history, you make any of those changes to your profile. If I'm connected with you on LinkedIn, I'm going to get a long, long, long list in my updates saying, Hannah's just changed her photo, Hannah's just changed her job role, Hannah's just got a new digital marketing qualification. And I'm going to think, gosh, that's very noisy, I'm going to hide all future updates from Hannah. So before you start making all those updates, put on your invisibility cloak, get into your settings and click on these 3 buttons. Change your privacy controls, select who can see your feed, turn off your broadcasts, and your footprint, which is your little digital footprint that you would normally leave us on because you want people to know that you've actually been looking at them and seeing what they've been doing. Turn that off, especially if you want to have a look at your competitors and how they're using LinkedIn. So go into settings, put on your invisibility cloak right from the beginning. The next thing you then need to look at, and ironically there are still people who don't have a good photo on LinkedIn. Get a good photo. Please don't get the one with the huge fish. It's not the guy from Postcode Anywhere, it's from another direct marketing agency who's got this huge fish that he carries like this on LinkedIn. I'm never going to recognize him unless he's going to walk into a room carrying the big fish. Maybe that's what he does, maybe that's his thing, to walk around with the fish. But make sure the photo is a visible photo of your face and not your logo and not the egg. Also make sure that you actually claim your own URL. Many of you who are here today will already have this. And make sure your professional headline is maximized. If you do not edit your own professional headline, what happens right now is LinkedIn will create it for you. So you can use your professional headline and you can add into that keywords and key phrases that are relevant to your business. With all the changes that have just taken place with LinkedIn, the 3 things on this page have suddenly become more important than they were previously. The new LinkedIn profiles which are being rolled out gradually, and I don't know about Rob, but when I had a look and I put my ticket into LinkedIn to say, I'm following quite a few people, I'm connected to quite a few people on LinkedIn, how soon can I get my new profile? They just said they're rolling it out gradually. It's happening in the States first, UK second. And it seems to be happening in the States with people whose first name begins with A, so I'm hopeful. Your public profile URL, if you can't get your name, and fortunately I'm lucky there's only one Annmarie Hanlon, so I've been able to claim that. If you can't get it, don't use numbers. I've got a great friend called Rob, and he's got his date of birth in his, and I know it because it's got Rob, let's call him Smith, 1974 afterwards. And that's a useful piece of data for anybody who is fishing online and looking for your data. But also it looks less professional, so try to come up with something slightly more creative that's about your business if your name has gone. Next things to consider, within your new profile, and if you ever have a look at who's recently looked at you, does anybody have a look? Or am I the only one? So, okay, a few of you do have a look to see who's recently looked at you. This will change in the new profiles as well, and you're going to be better able to see why they've looked at you. But the reason they find you in the first place is because they've put keywords or key phrases into Google, not just in LinkedIn. Because LinkedIn is one of the largest databases going that feeds Google for professional people. So think about what those are. Other things to think about, list your real skills and expertise, because these are currently being endorsed. Has anybody seen all those little endorse boxes pop up? I've had a couple of clients who've emailed me and say, how can I turn this off? You can't. LinkedIn has an issue with recommendations, and at the moment the recommendations are semi-hidden in the new profiles. They're trying to make it easier because there's a few of us that have got lots of recommendations, so they're just going for that quick snapshot view. So the quick snapshot view is literally, here's a list of your skills and expertise, can you endorse that person? Other things to think about is building your network. How many of you have got over 50 connections on LinkedIn? Okay, you're definitely in the right room today. If you haven't yet got 50, 50 is the magic number. 50 is the number at which your profile becomes more visible within both LinkedIn and also in Google. So it's something you should work towards. But it's not a business card competition, and I wouldn't connect with somebody for the sake of connecting with them. Find out why do they want to connect with you. Recommendations are still important and they still matter. They do appear when you dig into somebody's profile, but think about what are the key skills that you really want to be recommended for. And if you ever ask somebody for a recommendation, be specific about what you want them to recommend you for. Whether it's an event you've organised, whether it's an above-the-line program you've just organised for somebody, whether it's some great content you've created. Think about what it is. In terms of your company page, this again is changing. The first thing you need to do is you need to claim your company page. How many people have not yet claimed their company page? Is anybody willing to admit it? Thank you very much to the man in the corner. Well done. The issue is, if you don't claim it, LinkedIn sort of auto-populates it for you. But the other challenge is you don't really own it. If you claim your company page, you can add to it all sorts of things. You can now add a banner, and guess what? The banner is a different size from the banners that you need on Facebook, and on Twitter, and on Pinterest. They're all doing different sizes. It's similar to the Facebook banner if you've got it, and it's slightly better because the logo is put at the top rather than cutting away some of the banner imagery here. But what you can also do in your company page, you can actually add products and services on there. This, I think, is the real reason why LinkedIn started developing endorsements, because I know people who've got, in fact, Only Marketing Jobs has got a group on LinkedIn, the UK Marketing Lounge, which has got in excess of 40,000 people. If only 10% of that group have used their products and services at some point, you would expect on their products and services 4,000 endorsements at the top end. Maybe people are shy and you'll scale that right down and say, well, just 1%, 400. They've actually got fewer than 10. And it's really, really difficult to persuade people to actually tick the box that says, I will endorse your product. So I think what LinkedIn is doing right now is getting us to go for endorsing the individual, and what we'll see probably in 8 months' time, we'll start endorsing the actual product. So it's worth adding your product in here again, because this is all part of your overall search engine optimization, and you can be better found if you're using your keywords and your key phrases there. You can also link your updates from your blog into your LinkedIn product area. So if somebody is wanting to, say for example, you've picked a new client in a new area and you're doing research in them, you want them to know that you've looked at them. So within your profile, you've removed the anonymous lookup so they can see this is one of the people who's just looked at you. There's a good chance they'll think, who's that? Who do they work for? Who's their company? And the next thing they'll do is they'll look at your LinkedIn product page, possibly before they look at your own website. So effectively, your LinkedIn company page becomes your mini website, but you've just got lots and lots of empty shelves at the moment that need filling up. Other things to think about are the updates that you can add. And this is one area that everybody struggles with. As Charles said earlier, it's all about content curation. And it's all about coming up with those ideas for content. And you're thinking, we're in B2B, we're a service business. We don't have new products. How do we actually create those updates? What do we talk about? What do we say? There's actually quite a lot you can talk about. Ideally, you would start with a content framework and agree your content plan for the next 12 months. And it's likely to include items like, it could include new services, it could include projects. Projects is a whole new area on LinkedIn at the moment as well. But you could include a project update. You could share a specific element of your expertise. How many agencies are in the room this morning? How many agencies and people in PR and who write and do? Fantastic. Can you put your hands up a bit higher and wave? Great. Now put your hands down. Who are the people in the room who are not from an agency, who are from what we would call a client company? Can you wave? Okay. If you saw the other people that were waving, you need to make friends with them during the coffee break. But effectively, if you are in a client company, the things you need to be talking to your agencies about are also what key dates are you talking about? Have you reviewed any products? Have you bought any items within your business recently that's made a massive difference? Something that's been trending on Twitter this week has been the LiveScribe pen. Has anybody got one of these LiveScribe pens? Am I the only person buying gadgets? It's the most brilliant pen if you haven't got one. You can record a meeting, you write down on the notepad, and when you actually get back to the office and you connect your pen via USB, but now via Wi-Fi with the new ones, you can actually, all the notes from the meeting are turned into a Word document or into a PDF, and you can share it with everybody instantly. It's actually a gadget, much like many of the tools that are within Word and within Apple, that was actually designed first for students. It was designed for students in lecture theatres, and actually, if I'd got my pen with me today, I'd probably be wearing my earbuds just around my neck, because it's designed for big rooms and it will capture and record the whole thing. How neat is that? And it's less than $100. So you can actually review products that you've bought or services that you've bought and add those to your updates as well. It tells your potential clients that you are ahead of the game, that you're investing either in technology or in services in very many different ways too. And something else you really need to do with your company page, your staff might have LinkedIn profiles, but they might call your company name a different name. If you were called the ABC company, is that A.B.C. Is it ABC? Is it company spelled company, or is it spelled CO? Is it limited? Is it not limited? So your staff need to know the exact formula for the company name in every single social media platform that you use. If they don't, LinkedIn will accidentally create two companies. And you won't necessarily see this straight away, and it takes them, at the moment, it's only taking them 5 days to change. If you own the copyright and you've actually got the registered trademark, they will do it much quicker. So do make sure you're actually all using the same company name, otherwise you'll get lots and lots of duplicates out there. Just have a look at the IBM list. Because every single country nearly has its own little area. You've even got departments that have got separate LinkedIn pages. So what else should you think about? Is there anybody in the room who's responsible for sales in their organisation? Is there anybody responsible for marketing in their organisation? I've got news for you, you're responsible for sales too. They didn't tell you that, did they? Something you can do, LinkedIn is an absolute gift from a sales and marketing perspective. There used to be a time, and it's not that long ago, that if I was doing classical marketing research, and if I was looking at a new market to go into with a client, we would spend days camped out in libraries looking at directories. The internet came along, and LinkedIn came along, and suddenly with LinkedIn, you've got the biggest business database in the world, freely accessible. But your biggest question that you need to answer is, who are your target clients? And just this week, there's a new story on LinkedIn with a small business called Crux, and they created helmets for the cyclists for the Olympics. Did anybody see the story? It's quite interesting. They're a really small company, and they thought, we really should be in the Olympics, but how do we get there? What do we do? What's the process? So their head of design went onto LinkedIn. He's been an avid user for some years. He went onto LinkedIn and he found one of the people connected with the Olympic bids. And he sent them an in-mail, one of LinkedIn's own messages. And he said, I really think we should talk because we've created, made in England, some fantastic cycle helmets that would be absolutely perfect to use for this year's Olympics because they've got these technical features, whatever they were. And that prompted a response, and that prompted another response, and that then prompted an email exchange. And that then prompted a, gosh, actually, they're only down the road from us. We could go and talk to them. What a radical idea. So they actually visited them, and the end result was one in-mail on LinkedIn generated a contract through the Olympics, international publicity that you wouldn't be able to pay for that sort of PR. And with all the reruns and with everything being added to YouTube over a period of time and more people wanting these cycle helmets, their business has completely transformed. But it was all about this one thing, knowing the target clients. They were very, very clear about who their target clients were. If you don't know who your target clients are, you can't actually use LinkedIn. In fact, you probably couldn't use direct mail in any shape or form because you wouldn't know who to send the letter to. So you really need to start by knowing who your target clients are. The next thing, when you know who they are, with the company pages, you can actually follow them on LinkedIn. You can follow their updates. You can see when they've hired somebody. You can see when somebody's been promoted. You can see when they're recruiting. So you know, in terms of sales intelligence, if you have a group of 10 clients that you would really like to do business with, if you're following those 10 companies and you see suddenly they are recruiting, they've got lots of updates, there's lots more going on there, that might be the time to talk to them if they've ever said no to you in the past. So LinkedIn is an absolute goldmine. We're starting to see a little bit of research. It's not yet academically verified, but we are starting to get anecdotal research where I've got a whole group of companies that I've worked with, and they're getting up to 50% of their leads are coming from LinkedIn. So 50% of their business comes from a group of people that they would never have been able to get through the door to previously, and it's all coming from LinkedIn. And it's just simply knowing who they are, following with them, and starting to have a conversation with them. So what else can you do? Here's a radical idea. When you actually have found out the degrees of separation, does anybody not understand degrees of separation? I think you all probably do. When you understand the degrees of separation and you can see how you're connected, so for example, if I'm connected to David on LinkedIn and David's connected to Simon on LinkedIn, I'm 2 degrees of separation away. I've got various options at that stage. One of my options is I can use the template in LinkedIn and I can say to Simon, actually, could I have an introduction here, or can we organise this? But the other thing I can do is I can simply pick up the phone. And that's the most effective way of using LinkedIn. So when you've actually identified those degrees of separation, I could pick up the phone and say, David, I know you're connected with Simon on LinkedIn. How well do you know him? Oh, I know him really well. In fact, I was sitting next to him at a conference today. Do you think you could ping him an email for me and just say, I've got Annmarie Hanlon who's going to call you later this afternoon to speak to you about this. It's really worth taking the call. So that way around, I've converted a freezing cold lead into a very, very warm lead, but I haven't done it electronically. I've used that pick up the phone thing, okay? And it's maybe something we should do in the coffee break, is rather than just anonymously handing out business cards, go and say hi to people. Because the business card doesn't tell you everything. Other things to think about within the templates on LinkedIn. There are lots and lots of templates. They're really useful templates, but make sure you personalize them. There is nothing worse than a standard template. Because I've been using LinkedIn for a long time, and because I only connect with people I've met, or who give me a really strong reason to connect with them, because it isn't a business card competition, I get lots of people wanting to connect with me. Now, if somebody wants to connect with me and I don't know them and they don't give me a reason, on a day when I've got a bit of time, I'll ping them back a mail and I'll say to them, can you tell me why you want to connect, or can you remind me where we met? And one of two things will happen. They will either email me back and say, oh, we haven't met, I thought it'd be nice to connect. And I'm thinking, why? Because as soon as we connect, I'm giving you access to my database, because I do openly share my database. So on that basis, I'm disinclined to connect with them, so I'll just press the delete button. If they don't respond at all, I will click on LinkedIn's little button there that says, I don't know this person. And if they receive over 5 of these, LinkedIn will put them on the equivalent of the naughty step, and will then force them to provide the email address for every single person they want to connect with for a period of time. So it's really important, even when you've met somebody at an event today, they may not remember meeting you tomorrow, especially if you don't have a photograph. So it's a really, really good idea to say, it was great to meet at the conference yesterday. We had a chat over coffee and agreed it would be good to connect. Unless, of course, you connect straight away on your iPhone, which you can do too. But you can use the templates for all sorts of things, including sending congratulations when they've got a new job. But don't use the standard thing. Ask them something about the new job. Ask when you can meet up. Find out when would be a good time to meet. And do change the subject headings as well. But one of the key things to remember in LinkedIn, doesn't have a spell check. The number of people that I know that a sales administrator, and one of their key skills is attention to detail. And you know, I've counted so far 17 ways to spell administrator. LinkedIn doesn't yet have the little red squiggly lines. So whatever you're doing on LinkedIn, do it in a Word doc and copy and paste. In Word, you can count the characters, you can check what's going in there. It's much, much easier than trying to, I just bash away at the keys and very often get it wrong. It's much easier to put it in Word and do it that way around. What else can you do? There is a little bit of etiquette attached to LinkedIn. It's a professional network. If you don't behave, you will be sent to the equivalent of Coventry on this naughty step, and you will find it more difficult. Worst case scenario, LinkedIn will actually suspend your account for up to 72 hours if you start using it on a spam basis, and if you start flooding loads of people and connect, and they all click on the I don't know, and now worse still, report as spam that's just underneath. So as soon as that happens, you've got no account for 72 hours. What are you going to do? It's your sales database. So what can you do? Other things you can do. If you're too loud, you may be hidden. So if you're talking too much on LinkedIn and doing too many updates and changes, people can just click on the button that says, hide this person from your updates. So you really need to think about, I know in marketing we've got the 4, the 7, the 8 Ps, in theory, but there's also the 3 Ps of LinkedIn. You really need to be professional, to be polite, but also to be proud of your own achievements. In the UK, we tend to be more modest than our American cousins. We don't tend to shout about it in exactly the same way on our LinkedIn profiles. We're slightly more understated. If you've done something and a client has said to you, "That's absolutely fantastic," capture it on LinkedIn straight away. If you've just worked with a group of students who are really happy that they've all just passed their exams, again, that's something you could capture on there straight away. But do share it. It's another useful update. Something else to consider, I use LinkedIn a lot, but I would update maybe once, twice a week. I don't generally put updates on there daily. I know I've got a lot more connections than a lot of the people who are connected with me. So if somebody has fewer than 50 connections, and if I update every single day in the week, they're going to get constant updates from Annmarie is doing this, Annmarie is here, and is doing this, and has just done this, and is doing this. And that then becomes less interesting. I would use the updates when you've created a new blog post. I would not use the send the email out to everybody when you've created a new blog post. I did have a few people I was connected to, and every time they'd created a new blog post, they sent an email out to everybody in the group to tell them, I've disconnected with those people. And they might not even know that. They won't get a message to find out about that. They will never know I've disconnected unless they look through and they check their connections. So you can disconnect with people just as quickly as you can connect with them. So, what else should you think about? It's not Facebook. I'm really not looking for updates that say I'm sitting having a nice glass of red, watching Top Gear. Isn't Jeremy Clarkson great? Half of the people that you're connected with on LinkedIn hate Jeremy Clarkson. The other half think he's fabulous. That's great on Facebook where your Facebook friends can comment about that, but it's not right for LinkedIn. It is a more professional workspace. A couple of other things to think about. You really should think about LinkedIn the same way that you would do with your face-to-face networking. How many of you go to or have been to in the past breakfast meetings or lunch networking meetings? Any of you been to that? A few of you have. The thing with that is, if I walked up to somebody, I've only met Charles for the first time this morning. If we imagine this was a breakfast meeting and I walked over to Charles and said, "Hi Charles, I know we've only just met, but do you think I could have your mobile phone so I can just go through it and have a look at your address book and see all your connections and see who I'm connected to? We might have some connections in common, and that might be quite useful for me." When he's got over the initial shock, because it's only 7 o'clock in the morning and it's very early at a breakfast meeting, he's going to think, Annmarie is completely mad. I'm not giving my mobile phone to anyone, and there is no way that she's looking at that data. But we do that freely on LinkedIn. And that's another sales benefit out of it that you can see, and it then gives you the chance to actually say to other people, I see you're connected to so-and-so, maybe we should speak as well. Treat it the same way that you would do with your face-to-face networking. Once a month, for an hour, go in and use LinkedIn really, really well. And maybe 10 minutes.